Hello, it's wonderful to see you again. I enjoyed having you during my training for communications, and your company decided that in order to have a refresher course, we would basically sum up in about 15 or 20 minutes the major principles of communication. Now, there's going to be subsequent videos to this. However, I want to just start with this first one to reiterate the importance of communication. Naturally, in your job as technicians, you would imagine that the most important component is the technical ability, the ability to write code. And there's no question in my mind that that is absolutely valuable. However, as we discussed during the class, that's not sufficient. That was sufficient for an entry-level position. That was sufficient for you to get started into the IT industry. However, if you want to be promoted, and remember we talked about what is talent in the IT world, you must have that triangle. Besides the technical part, you also need the managerial skills and the marketing skills. You need to have the ability to talk to people in your team, motivate them, resolve conflict among them, but at the same time, talk to customers, upsell them, convince them that your services are valuable and that they should pay more for them. So today I just want to talk about the importance of communications, because communication is the tool that we use in order to convince both our colleagues that they should do their job, that they should work together, and our customers, our clients, that they ought to continue doing business with us, and then they should do even more expensive business. If I may, let me go back to the first time that we have, probably in recorded history, a great project that required a lot of interaction in humans. I want to go back to the Tower of Babel. Now, in the Tower of Babel, mankind basically got together and they said, we are going to build a tower that is going to be so high up that it's going to end up all the way to God. Now, there are three components that are necessary to any new project. Number one, you need resources. In your situation, it's your time, it's your know-how, it's your skills. Number two, you need to have a commonality of purpose. Everybody has to be going in the same direction. Everybody wants to accomplish the same goal. And number three, you need to have a communication system. Now, interestingly, when God looked down upon these people and saw what they were doing, He didn't touch the resources, He didn't touch the commonality, He touched the communications. And I have to tell you, since the Tower of Babel to this day, the biggest problem that most organizations have is communications. How many times have you had an after-project meeting or some sort of debriefer where everybody basically concluded that we had a communication problem? People didn't spell out their expectations. People didn't communicate enough. People didn't do all the things that they were supposed to be doing. They didn't communicate. So communication is absolutely critical. For the purpose of this presentation, I will be talking mainly about oral communication. Again, I know that most of you are used to written communications. You do not have any problems writing emails. You don't have any problems writing reports. However, when it comes time to stand up and deliver, when it comes time to ignite your people during a staff meeting or convince your customers, that's where we're starting to have problems. So let me briefly give you a few reasons why you should do more in the area of communications. And the second part is I want to talk to you about what are the hows, how to go about communications. Number one, it is very important for you to realize that people judge you by the way you talk. Now, we may not agree with that, we may not like it, but that's a fact. You don't have a second chance to make a first impression. If you don't capture somebody's attention within the first 30 to 60 seconds, you lost them. People will put a label on you that is very difficult for you to get rid of. So they may look at you and say, well, he's a good technician, but he doesn't really know how to go about it. You know the old joke in Romanian about what's the similarity between an engineer and a dog? Both of them have very intelligent look, but they can't utter a word. You don't want that to be said about you. Especially if you want to be promoted, especially if you want people to give you more responsibility. People judge you by the way you talk. Now, you may be looking at me and saying, wait a minute, I'm an introvert. You don't understand. My DNA was set up in such a way where I'm not a talker. My parents weren't talkers. My grandparents weren't talkers. The good news is that you can learn how to be a better talker. Now, again, I don't mean to discount your natural inclinations and your DNAs. However, I do have to tell you that with practice, with you filming yourself, with you rehearsing, with you doing communication over and over and over again, you can get better at it. So number one is you are going to be judged by the way you talk. Number two, you will inspire confidence. And interestingly, you would think that you inspire confidence in the people that listen to you, but that's not true. The person that is going to be most confident is going to be you. I want to take you back to the beginning of the 20th century in the United States of America. There was a man by the name of Dale Carnegie who was in the city of New York, and all of a sudden he started teaching business courses to people who were coming from the farms into the big city. Most of them were scared. Most of them were trying to get a job. They were trying to be promoted in the job that they were having. And they came to these business courses really not knowing what to expect. Initially, Dale Carnegie was planning to talk to them about attitude and how important it is to be an optimist, how important it is for you to believe in yourself, for you to be a person of faith, believing in God that you can do wonderful things. It turned out that the most effective way for Dale Carnegie to coach these people how to become more confident was speaking in public. So what he ended up doing is he just put people up in front of people and he said, all right, go ahead and talk. This is how we had Toastmasters and a number of other organizations that basically sprung up at the beginning of the 20th century, and people gained confidence in themselves, in the decisions that they were making, in the work that they were doing. The billionaire Warren Buffett was the one that said that probably nothing prepared him so much for his life of success as the Dale Carnegie course in public speaking. You gain confidence in yourselves. And the third reason, again, there's many other ones, but I'll limit myself just to the third reason why you should become a better communicator is because it's going to force you to become better. You have to realize that in our innate nature, we're lazy. Nobody wants to get up and work. As a matter of fact, my first-year economics professor came in front of us and said, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that you probably know. Work is the most horrible thing on the face of the planet. As a matter of fact, it's so horrible that unless you pay people, they'll never do it. Naturally, people don't want to develop. Naturally, people don't want to get better. They don't want to push themselves further. However, if you stand up in front of a group of people and you make some statements, you are basically committing yourself to accomplish them. If you get up in front of a group of people and say, we need to accomplish this goal by Friday next week, we need to do this in 6 months' time, so on and so forth, people are going to listen to you and they're going to hold you to account. So when you commit, you basically get yourself into a situation where people are going to hold your feet to the fire. And they're going to say, listen, we were in that meeting, we heard that presentation, we heard you speak at the company's annual meeting and you said such and such things. Have you delivered? And if you are a serious person, if you're a person committed about your career and your future, you're going to hold yourself to that account. You are going to know what you talked about because you already committed it. So those are some of the things that we ought to have as the motivators to become better communicators. I can already hear you now saying, well, how do I do it? How do I become a better communicator? I think the first step in becoming a better communicator is that you must calibrate your expectations. There is something very interestingly, and I call this phenomenon the 9th grade syndrome. You know the 9th grade? Remember, from grades 1 through 8, you were like the greatest person in the junior high school. And you sort of grew up with the school and you knew everybody. And in the 8th grade, you were the best, the brightest. You were the funniest. You were the most popular. And all of a sudden, over one summer, you end up being in the 9th grade. You're nobody again. Everybody's older than you. Everybody's better than you. Everybody knows more than you do. The tendency is for you to run back to the 8th grade. Same is true with communication. The first time you're going to get up in front of a group of people, I guarantee you, you're going to have problems. I guarantee you, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to stutter. You're going to have all kinds of situations. The secret is not to give up. The secret is to calibrate your expectation. So considering that you're technical people, one of the things that I encourage people that I work with, that I do coaching, is please go back into your professional life and do a tally, number, how many hours you actually spoke in front of a group of people. It's surprising that oftentimes people expect themselves to be incredible speakers without having put in the time. You must clock in the hours. Same is true with being an airplane pilot. Same is true with being anything. Unless you have the quantity of hours, you're not going to be good. So what I encourage you is have realistic expectations from yourself. As you're starting your career as a communicator, as a public speaker, don't expect to be good in the beginning. Rather, expect to be at the level that you are. I get this question all the time, and people say, well, how did you become a public speaker? Well, it's very simple, the number of hours. I clocked in a number of hours. So I'm going to be 40 pretty soon, and I'm hoping that by the time I get to be 40, I will have spent 10,000 hours in front of an audience speaking in public. Now, you cannot compare yourself with somebody that does this for a living, a teacher, a professor, or a conference speaker, since you are probably spending 30 minutes a week, maybe even less than that, talking in public. So make sure you calibrate your expectations. Number 2, don't run away from ugliness. I encourage you to film yourself, to record yourself. Now, I started speaking in public in the United States of America, and this is back when I still had a very thick Eastern European accent. And what I did is I recorded myself. And the first time I heard myself, I cringed. As a matter of fact, I still cringe today when I see myself or I hear myself. And the tendency is to stop recording yourself, to sort of avoid situations where you have to talk. Somebody says, hey, we need a volunteer for somebody to say something. I say, no, not me, I'm not a good speaker. Quite the opposite. Courage does not mean the absence of fear. It means activity, action in spite of fear. So go to those situations. Put yourself in scenarios where you're going to be forced. Even though, and let's admit it, objectively speaking, your communication is going to be ugly. You're going to stutter. People are going to be bored. People are going to walk out of the rooms and you're not going to be able to capture their attention. Face the ugliness. Face the ugliness. Number 3, practice, practice, and practice. But don't practice too much, because there is a danger of you playing things into your head. Go ahead and prepare. Go ahead and do all kinds of things that you need to do in order to make a very good presentation. But at the same time, don't overdo it. If you overdo it, you may end up actually getting yourself worse. So in closing, I want to leave you with this. Communication is very important. It's important for your professional life. It's important for your personal life. Your colleagues, your company, your family, your friends, everybody wants you to become a better communicator. The good news is that you can. All you have to do is set yourself to become a better communicator. Calibrate your expectations. Make sure that you don't expect things that are unrealistic from yourself, and practice. Film yourself. Take a class, record yourself, and you will see that if you stick to it, in a matter of 6 months, in a matter of a year, you will be a much better communicator. People will think you're more intelligent, they will respect you, you'll be more of a leader, and you're going to command people's respect. I hope this video has been helpful. I see you next time.